Hello, Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you are doing good. So, as you know that I'm Irshad Hussain and I have been assigned this topic, this course English 3 with you people in this semester. The full title of the course is Communication and Presentation Skills. So, as I have already shared with you the course outlines, which are basically divided into three parts. The first part deals with communication, then the second part, which deals with presentation, and the third part, which is again a type of communication and a form of presentation, is interview. So let's start with uh, defining communication and the communication process. Well, if we look at the etymology of the word communication, we see that this word has traveled from Latin into English. It has been derived from a Latin word which is communis. This word in Latin means common. So, a communication expert, Wilbur Schramm, has devised a definition based on this meaning of the word communis, which is common. He says in communication, we are actually trying to establish commonness with someone. For example, if people, two or more persons, are in communication, they are sharing information, knowledge with each other. So, in this way, they are separating commonness. Well, then see what the Oxford Dictionary say about communication. It is again a similar definition. It says the imparting, conveying, or exchange of ideas, knowledge. So, keeping in view all these brief concepts into one definition, we can create a good comprehensive definition this way. Say, communication involves the exchange of ideas, okay, uh, feelings, emotions, knowledge, information between two or more persons. If we consider communication is a whole process, a big process, which involves sharing or exchange of something, in this something we can consider many things. Okay, there might be one thing or two things or many things at a time. So this something may be uh, ideas, feelings, emotions, knowledge, or pieces of information between two or more persons. So the necessity for the communication process is that we must have uh, more than one persons, so two or more. Well, in this big process of communication, there are two sub processes which are simultaneously occurring in the communication process. They are, one is transmitting and the second is receiving. So in transmitting the message, the something, the idea, feeling, emotion, knowledge, information is transferred from pole A towards B. This pole A, I mean, with this word pole, I want to say the person who sends the message, who sends or who starts the communication process is pole A, and the pole B is the person, the receiver, who receives and tries to understand or comprehend the message. Or there are two poles like this one. Okay, in this illustration you can say there are two people with the shared bubble hovering over them. So they are two different poles. One person is transmitting the message and the second is receiving. So these two sub processes are done in the whole communication process. So for examinations or with exam perspective, you can prepare this definition. Communication is a process which involves the exchange of ideas, feelings, emotions, knowledge, and pieces of information between two or more persons. Okay, so let's move to communication process now. So as you can see in this diagram that there are several steps involved in communication process. So first of all, we have to understand what a process is. When I say process, it means there are certain steps included in that process. When I say step, it means we are bound to follow certain order in the steps. For example, the process should start with step 1, then step 2, then 3, then 4. Likewise, we have to move onwards. We cannot move randomly. For example, we cannot start with step 2 first, ignoring step 1, or we cannot place step 2 at the end where step 5 comes. So when I say steps, it must follow certain order: step 1, then 2, then 3. And when we are following these steps in a proper way, in a certain order, we are actually doing a process. So communication, as I said, is a process in which there are certain steps. So as per this diagram, we have four steps, equally important steps. Step 1, 2, 3, and 4, they are considered the essential, the vital steps of communications. We cannot complete communication process ignoring any one of them. These four steps are very much important in communication process. Well, then, for the two additional steps, step 5 and step 6, they are considered additional. These steps can improve the communication process, or they may be fruitful in making the communication more effective. But there are additional steps. We cannot say if we ignore these two steps, communication process is not happening. So you have to keep in mind the difference in the essential steps and the additional steps. Essential steps are 4 and additional steps are 2. In additional steps, the very first step we have, sender has an idea. So if I explain this step with you, at this step we have a person, and that person has something. Something means in communication we say something, for example, idea, feeling, emotion, knowledge, something like that. Okay, this person has something out of these options, and this person must be willing to share that something with the other person. Okay, then this becomes step 1, which is the essential step in communication process. So for step 1, you have to keep in mind three things. There is a person, this person has something, and in something you already know, this something may be some idea, some feeling, some emotion, knowledge, etc. Okay, then this person must be willing to share that something with the other person. If the person uh, is not willing to share that something with the other person, step 1 is incomplete. It does not lead to step 2. Automatically it is locked there. Okay, so when this person has something and he wants to share that something, which might be information, idea, knowledge, etc., so this person is called then uh, the sender. Okay, this sender is actually having something and is willing to share that something with other person. So this is the whole process of communication, and in this whole process of communication we have talked about step 1. Then step 2. Step 2 is actually the conversion of that something into some tangible, some understandable thing. For example, sender 1 has something, let's say he or she has a news. So this person wants to share that news with other person. So what does he do is very simple. He converts that idea, that news, into uh, a message form that could be transferred via some channels. Okay, Step 2 involves conversion of that information, that idea, that knowledge, that emotion into some tangible, some understandable form, which then becomes a message, properly becomes a message. We can consider an example of writing a letter. So, for example, Sarah, one of our students, is willing to write a letter to her father. So, she has a lot of things to share with her father. That becomes step one. Then in step two, she is having a page, and she is jotting down all that stuff that is in her head, that she wants to deliver towards her father. What does she do here in this step is very simple. She is converting that something, that idea, into some tangible, some understandable form, that is the message then. Okay, in step 2, as I said, the sender encodes this conversion process. The abstract form of the idea is converted into some tangible form that becomes a message then. So step 2 is very simple. The sender encodes the idea in message. Okay, then step 3. In step 3, the sender chooses the channel for transmitting uh, the message. Okay, it is on the part of the sender to select the medium, to select the channel. Which channel I mean, whether this message is going to happen online, on phone, on in a face-to-face conversation, or through something written, for example letter writing. So this is a channel. So in this step, the sender chooses a channel, and he sends the message towards the receiver. So the selection of the channel occurs at step 3. Then step 4. Step 4 is the last essential step of communication process. Here we have the second person who was considered the receiver, the person who is willing to receive the message sent by the sender, and after receiving this person, the receiver tries to decode or understand that message. It is not necessary for the for the receiver to completely understand the message. Okay, if he or she is trying to understand the message, even that is decoding. So step 4 is very simple and understandable, easy. Here the receiver receives the message, and after receiving the message, that person, the receiver, tries to uh, understand the message, that is decoding. Okay, got it? So in these 4 steps, we have a sender on one pole and a receiver on the other pole, and two steps are happening in between these poles. They are the encoding and the travel of the message over some channel. So that is all about these 4 essential steps of communication. Okay, if a person completes, if not a person, rather 2 persons or more persons complete these 4 steps, it means the communication process is done. Well then, let's talk about the additional steps, step 5 and 6. Okay, step 5 is feedback travels to the center. Let's suppose the receiver is not getting the message properly. Now this person responds back to the sender, asking additional questions, or sharing their feedback. For example, if the person is not getting the message, that person definitely will be asking questions to clear his understanding on the message. But if that person has completely understood, the message and still wants to share some feedback on the message, that is this additional step which is called feedback travels to sender. Okay, then the sixth step is again the repetition of the whole four steps, essential steps. This is then this then becomes possible additional feedback to receiver. So in the step 6 we have to repeat all these five steps time and again, then it becomes additional feedback. So for today's lecture we have covered the definition of communication, then the process of communication. So if we read one liners of each step, we have people often say uh, phases of communication instead of steps of communication, they are the same. Okay, so step one or phase one is the sender has an idea, you have an idea and want to share it. Second is encoding, the sender changes the idea into a message. Then comes the sender transmits the message. Okay, in this the sender is selecting the channel, and the sender is free to choose out of many options one channel, and that person is transmitting the message. So the physically transmission of your message to your receiver, you select a communication channel. Okay, step 4, in which we are receiving and decoding the message. Then the additional step was feedback, the receiver reacts to the sender, sending feedback to the sender. And then the last step, which is actually the repetition of the first five steps, one after another, one after another. Okay, so that's it for today's lecture. If you have any questions, please let me know in the WhatsApp group, and I'll be having uh, different sessions online also, live sessions on Google Meet. So please feel free to contact me there on email or WhatsApp. Thank you.